Hi, kids, and welcome to the very first episode of Bedtime Stories with Bodhi. Tonight's story is Rapunzel. Jesus fucking Christ. There were once
was
a man and a woman who had long been in vain and had wished for a child. At length, the woman hoped that God was about to grant her her desire. These people had a little window at the back of their house from which a splendid garden could be seen, which was full of the most beautiful flowers and herbs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and no one dared to go into it because it belonged to an enchantress named Dame Gothel, who had great power and was dreaded by all the world. Gonna need an extra little shot of something. One day, the woman was standing by this window and looking down into the gardens when she saw a bed which was planted with the most beautiful Rapunzel, and it looked so fresh and green that she longed for it and had the greatest desire to eat some. This desire increased every single day, and as she knew she could not get any of it, she was quite pined away and looked pale and miserable. Then her husband was alarmed and asked, "What ails you, dear wife?" She replied, "If I can't get any of the Rapunzel, which is in the garden behind our house, I shall die." The man, who loved her, thought, "Sooner than let your wife die, bring her some of the Rapunzel yourself. Let it cost you what it will." In the twilight of the evening he clambered down over the wall into the garden of the enchantress, hastily clutched a handful of Rapunzel, and took it to his wife. She at once made herself a salad of it, and ate it with much delight. She, however, liked it so much, so very much, that the next day she longed for it 3 times as much as before. Okay, so I have to stop the story here. If you want a kid, just fuck. Okay? That's part number 1. Part number 2, if you know there's a witch over there, maybe don't steal her fucking shit. Fucking... Ugh, people are dumb. Anyway, where was I? Yes, she liked it 3 times as much as before. If he was to have any rest, her husband must at once descend into the garden. In the gloom of the evening, therefore, he let himself down again. But when he had clambered down the wall, he was terribly afraid, for he saw the enchantress standing before him. "How can you dare," she said with an angry look, "to descend into my garden and steal my Rapunzel like a thief? You shall suffer for it." "Ah," answered he, "let mercy take the place of justice. I only made my mind... Whoa, this English is fucked. I only made up my mind to do it out of necessity. My wife saw your Rapunzel from the window, and felt such a longing for it that she would have died if she had not got some to eat." Then the enchantress allowed her anger to be softened, and said to him, "If the case be as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much Rapunzel as you will. Only I make one condition. You must give me the child which your wife will bring into the world. It shall be well treated, and I will care for it like a mother." The man, in his terror, consented to everything, and when the woman gave birth, the enchantress appeared at once, gave the child the name of Rapunzel, and took it away with her. It's called a gun, guys. Just shoot her. I don't know. Like... Okay, let's break this down here. Someone breaks into my house. Someone tries to take my kid. You know? Fuck. I hate people. Rapunzel grew into the most beautiful child beneath the sun. When she was 12 years old, the enchantress shut her into a tower which lay in a forest, and had neither stairs nor a door. But quite at the top was a little window. Where the enchantress wanted to go in, she placed herself beneath it and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had magnificent long hair, fine as spun gold, and when she heard the voice of the enchantress, she unfastened her braided tresses, wound them round one of the hooks in the window above, and the hair fell 20 ells down. Jesus Christ, woman, cut your hair. And the enchantress climbed up by it. Okay, we all know the story of Rapunzel, right? Has anybody, like, asked the question, how does it not pull out her hair? Carpets match the drapes? We don't know. And I lost my spot again. After a year or two, it came to pass that the king's son rode through the forest and went by the tower. Then he heard a song which was so charming that he stood still and listened. This was Rapunzel, who in her solitude passed her time by letting her sweet voice resound. The king's son wanted to climb up to her, and looked for the door of the tower, but none was to be found. He rode home, but the singing had so deeply touched his heart that every day he went out into the forest and listened to it. Once, when he was thus standing behind a tree, he saw that an enchantress came there, and he heard how she cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel let down the braids of hair, and the enchantress climbed up to her. "If that is the ladder by which one mounts, I will at once try my fortune," said he. And the next day, when it began to grow dark, he went to the tower and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. Fucking... Why? Why would you let him up? Why would you let him up? Why would you let him up? If you were a girl alone in a tower, and some dude calls out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair," you dropping that hair? Because I'm sure as shit not. Immediately the hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up. At first Rapunzel was terribly frightened when a man such as her eyes had never yet beheld came to her. But the king's son began to talk to her quite like a friend, and told her that his heart had been so stirred that it had let him have no rest, and he had been forced to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when he asked her if she would take him for her husband... Did I miss a page? No. 45, 46. No, it's the same day. Fucking 5 minutes after meeting each other. Hey, you want to get hitched? I mean, I get it. It's romantic, but it's just this fucking... It's this over-allitericized garbage book. Oh, he was young and handsome. Okay, that's good. She thought, "He will love me more than the old Dame Gothel does." And she said yes, and laid her hand in his. She said, "I will willingly go away with you, but I do not know how to get down. Bring with you a skein of milk every time that you come, and I will weave a ladder with... Oh, silk, not milk. And I will weave a ladder with it, and when that is ready I will descend, and you will take me on your horse." They agreed that until that time he should come up to her every evening, for the old woman came by day. The enchantress marked nothing of this, until once Rapunzel told her, "Tell me, Dame Gothel, how it happens that you are so much heavier for me to draw up than the young king's son? He is with me in hardly a minute." "Ah, you wicked child," cried the enchantress, "what do I hear you say? I thought I had separated you from all of the world, and yet you have deceived me." She's a teenager, dude. Let her out of the fucking house. In the anger, she clutched Rapunzel's beautiful tresses, wrapped them twice around her left hand, seized a pair of scissors in the right, and snip, snap, they were cut off. I actually kind of like that. Snip, snap, off it goes. Fucking whatever. And the lovely braids lay on the ground, and she was so pitiless that she took poor Rapunzel into a desert where she had to live in great grief and misery. What? On the same day that she cast out Rapunzel, the enchantress fastened the braids of hair which she had kept onto the hook of the window, and in the evening when the king's son came and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." She let the hair down, the king's son ascended, but he did not find his dearest Rapunzel above, but the enchantress, who gazed at him with a wicked and venomous look. "Aha!" she cried mockingly, "you would fetch your dearest, but the beautiful bird sits no longer singing in this nest. The cat has got it, and it will scratch out your eyes as well. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her more." The king's son was beside himself in pain, and in his despair he leapt down from the tower. He escaped with his life, but the thorns into which he fell pierced his eyes. I'm sorry, what? Then he wandered quite blind about the forest, ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but lament and weep over the loss of his dearest wife. "Buddy Guy, you have no eyes." Thus he roamed about in misery for some years. Did no one come looking for him? He's the king's son, right? Yeah. Ate nothing but roots and berries, and did nothing but lament and weep over the loss of his dearest wife. Thus he roamed about in misery for some years, and at length came to the desert where Rapunzel, with the twins to which she had given birth, did they fuck? A boy and a girl lived in wretchedness. He heard a voice, and it seemed so familiar to him that he went towards it, and when he approached, Rapunzel knew him and embraced him and wept. 2 of her tears wetted his eyes, and they grew clear again, and he could see with them as before. He led her to his kingdom, where he was joyfully received, and they lived a long time afterwards, happy and contented. The fuck? Okay. I have some thoughts that I may have voiced earlier, but I have some thoughts. Starting with, why in the fuck did somebody think to write this book? Like, is it supposed to be a lesson? Like, don't sneak boys into your house or the boy will get his eyes fucking cut out? Like, what the fuck? And what was with that, like, ending bit where he was like, "Oh, she cried into my eyes and I could see again." Like, no, that would fucking burn, dude. Fucking salt water in the eyes? Holy shit. Especially eyes that are gone. Ugh. And what was with that whole twins thing? Did they have sex? Did they not have sex? Does she have Subscribe.